Hello, I'm Sean Lean. I'm the President of the Legislative Council in the Victorian Parliament, and I'm here to give an update of this week's sitting. This week, 3 pieces of legislation was actually passed through this particular chamber of the Parliament. 2 of those pieces of legislation were treated as urgent bills, and this is where the rules of the Legislative Council allows for the House to immediately commence debate on a bill rather than what the usual practice is, and the rules state that there has to be notice of at least a week of a bill before it actually gets debated in this chamber. So one of those pieces of urgent legislation was the Family Violence Protection Amendment Bill, and this bill amends the Family Violence Protection Act to rectify some defects in certain copies of family violence intervention orders served after a certain date. This is a very technical amendment to this piece of legislation, but a very important one. Given the nature of this bill, the debate on this bill and the passage of it being passed was really a matter of minutes, because every member of the Parliament agreed that this is something that needed to be dealt with very expediently. The other piece of legislation that was treated as an urgent bill was the Bail Amendment Bill, and this is a bill that strengthens bail laws for serious, high harm and repeat offending while on bail, and ensure bail is respected by introducing bail offences. There was a lot of debate on this bill, a large committee stage where the bill gets examined clause by clause as far as what it means for when it is enacted. And so the reason I have a bit of a croaky voice giving this report is that bill was debated to right through the night to 1 a.m. the next day. This particular bill was amended during that committee stage, and the amendment was accepted by the Assembly members when the message went back to them that it had been amended. The other piece of legislation that was debated in this chamber earlier on in the sitting week was the Terrorism Community Protection Control of Weapons Amendment Bill. And this bill expands the eligibility criteria for Victorians who are at risk of being radicalised towards violent extremism. And it also, for other purposes, but there was an amendment introduced that did make a bit of media interest during the week as far as having a machete was banned in Victoria, and that'll be enacted in coming months. Other items that we debated that wasn't legislation during the week was issues around the suburban rail loop, the water grid plan, wombats, unions and health issues, and also there was a petition that was tabled that had a debate around rainbow library kits. A lot happens around the Parliament during the sitting week, a lot happens around the Parliament when we're not sitting as well, which is a great thing. And one of the events was an event for Landcare and Friends, where a number of Landcare groups were in Queen's Hall all of the week and made themselves available to talk about the great work they do, and particularly to talk to MPs about how the MPs may be able to support them in the important work that they are doing. Something really important happened during the week as well, where the Speaker unveiled a new caring room. There's a number of members of Parliament that have recently had babies. There's 3 mothers that have young babies, and there's actually 2 MPs just recently that have had babies as well that are due to come back to the Parliament. So the Speaker championed a room in honour of Charlotte Marshall, who's the daughter of Kirsty Marshall. And Kirsty Marshall, I think it's 22 years ago, brought her baby into the Assembly during a vote on a bill, and she actually was breastfeeding at the time, which made big news because usually it's only members of Parliament that come into a parliamentary chamber while it's sitting. And at the time, the Speaker, Judy Madigan, ruled that for Charlotte to stay in the chamber during the sitting of the House while being fed. And it's great, and I think we've evolved now that it's really important that these MPs that have young babies actually have a caring room, due to they want to continue to participate and do their job as members of Parliament. And without a facility like that, it would be almost impossible to be here in every debate and every vote as they want to. So that was a cool thing. Gambling legislation amendment and fire service property amendment are pieces of legislation that came to this chamber from the Assembly at the end of the week. So I will give an update in the next sitting week, which is a couple of weeks' time, on how those pieces of legislation or other pieces of legislation on the notice paper travelled through this chamber when I see you next time.